What's up, Internet friends? I'm Kevin Garaventa, and welcome to another episode of the PlayStation Plus Game Club, a show where we pick one game from the PlayStation Plus library and break it down for your entertainment, information, and amusement. Today we are talking about Tetris Effect, a game from the brilliant mind of Tetsuya Mizuguchi. Mizuguchi and his studio are well known for making music-infused games like Rez and Lumines, with the help of their own award-winning music team known as Hydelic. Tetris Effect Connected, or just Tetris Effect, is no different. With a completely original soundtrack by Hydelic, Tetris Effect is an enthralling piece of art, and a new transcendent way to experience Tetris. Joining me today is a very special guest, Jordan Vickers. Welcome to the Game Club.
Hi, everybody. Another best friend here. How's everyone doing? Or just you and me, I guess.
Yeah, it's just you and me. Things are going great. How's your day going?
It's been going great. We actually played a little earlier together on Tetris Effect and came to talk about that experience.
Yeah, it was just you and me for a few minutes, I think a couple hours ago, and that was a pretty awesome experience. That was a lot of fun. Really looking forward to talking about that.
Well, I think we played only about 20-30 minutes, but it was definitely a different version of Tetris for multiplayer. Yeah, and we'll get into it.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic. But if you want to be part of an episode of the PlayStation Plus Game Club, just like Jordan here, you can send us an email at psplusgameclub@gmail.com with game suggestions or thoughts you have about our monthly featured game. And getting back to it, the game we picked this month is Tetris Effect. So first of all, for anyone that just isn't familiar with Tetris, there's a column of space that you have where you're arranging falling blocks, and when you fill in a row of blocks without any holes, a line disappears, and then you continue. The game gets faster and faster. It's pretty simple, pretty intuitive to just see and understand what you're doing. But this one in particular was very special, and that's because it integrates music into the game that you're playing in a different way than past Tetrises have done, where every move that you make, like moving a piece or rotating it or placing it, it all has a particular musical note to it that kind of creates the music of the game as you're playing. And the designer, Tetsuya Mizuguchi, has a history of building games like that, and he's had studios make games over his career that have done that same kind of thing, but this is the first time that he's done it with Tetris, and it is one of the best versions of Tetris that I've played.
Oh, absolutely. It's kind of funny when you say that, like, if you don't know what Tetris is, I think Tetris might be the most universal video game out there.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard, like, grandparents have played it, people, older generations have played it, young generations. You can literally pick up Tetris and immediately understand it.
Yeah.
And it's that simple, but it also can be very complex. And I think it might be the best video game in the world because of those factors alone. It might not be a whole lot of people's favorite game, but you'd be hard-pressed to be like, I don't like Tetris.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think it is probably one of the most intuitive games that you can understand and see like what you are supposed to do. But to master it is a completely different thing. It's like the equivalent of, I would think, the video game version of chess, where there's a simple set of rules that you can understand to how to play it, but actually knowing how to play it well is a completely different thing, and it takes hours and hours of practice just to know like what you're doing in a Tetris game to be really good at it.
Oh yeah, but there are definitely techniques on like how to stack and get clear as many lines as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Especially with the infamous line, like everybody wants to use that straight line and clear four spaces because it's so satisfying.
It is, and I have a habit of not clearing lines and just trying to build that space to insert the four square block in there, and I almost to a detriment because I often like build my stack up way too high, wanting to get that line piece just to clear four lines at once. But
yeah, before we get into the things that make it extra different,
yeah,
me and my friends, we also play just for fun the Puyo Puyo Tetris. And one of the things I notice in that versus this, the block randomization is a little bit harder in the Tetris Effect Connected, because in like the Puyo Puyo version and many other versions, I would get that straight line way more often than in Tetris Effect, and I feel like that was done on purpose. I think they wanted to make this game just slightly harder. Did you notice that at all?
I actually didn't. I did end up like not getting them sometimes when I didn't when I needed them, but most of the time it did still feel random. So I'm not sure if I ended up getting a line block or when I didn't need it, or if I really was missing one. I don't know. I often found myself having too many sometimes, where like in this version of Tetris, like most versions, what you can do is have a hold piece. And what that means is that like you can, as your blocks are falling, if there's one that you want to save for later, you can pick that and pull it back into a box that saves it for later. But that box can only hold one piece. And if you hit that button again, it swaps the piece that you have with what's currently falling. Now, most of the time what would happen is I would get a line block, save it, and then a few minutes later, like another line block would appear. And so I'd be like, well, I don't really have a stack built up yet for a whole line piece, and I have to use this one. So it might have been a case where I was just not using them often enough. And I don't know, they still just felt completely random. But this version of Tetris, I felt like was just about as good as any other that I've played as far as the gameplay goes. What made it really special, though, was the visuals and the music and how they are integrated into what you're playing.
Yes.
To give you an idea, of what that is that when you're moving pieces around, the sound effects that they make as you're rotating pieces, as you're moving them from left to right or right to left, as you're dropping them into place, they all make a specific sound that fits into the background music that's playing in that level. And they also kind of create the music that is playing in the foreground, as well as the visuals. Like certain visual things happen when you clear a line, and certain things happen when you like clear four lines at once. It's very flashy. There's a lot going on, but at the same time, it's quite beautiful and it's very wonderful. That is like the artistic spin that Mizuguchi's studio kind of takes on a lot of his games, and with Tetris, it makes it something really special. So that's what I really love about this version of Tetris.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I would describe this as the Tetris game if you absolutely love ASMR.
That's a great explanation.
And I feel like talking about it really doesn't do it justice because I had the experience of playing this in VR at first.
Uh-huh.
And that is a trip.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like if you have VR, any VR system, even though this is a PlayStation podcast, if you have any VR system, buy Tetris Effect. It is worth it.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Playing it on the big screen and everything is all fun and whatnot, but to be surrounded by these visuals, it really does step up everything to a whole nother level.
Yeah. Have you noticed that as you're playing this version of Tetris, have you been experiencing what is called the Tetris Effect?
I do not experience Tetris Effect, which is after the game's done, you can still see the blocks in your mind,
Yeah.
or when you close your eyes sometimes. And that dates back way back to like the Game Boy version where people actually would play Tetris for so long and they would lay down and the I forgot the composer, but the very classic Tetris music, the old Russian music, it would play in their head and they would see the falling blocks. And that is what this game is named after.
Yeah, yeah. And it is an interesting thing to have happen. It has happened to me only a couple of times and the ones that I remember it happening was with this game and an old N64 game called Vigilante 8, just because I loved playing it so much. And I think I just like played so much of it that I started to just like see it when I started to fall asleep. But this particular effect has been studied in like laboratories where they have people play Tetris before going to bed, and they like these people while they're trying to fall asleep tend to see the game in their minds. And it was, you know, the most prominent when they were trying to do this kind of thing with Tetris. So I think having that kind of that kind of thing happen is very interesting, and it shows us, you know, another aspect of the mind that video games can play. And this is like one of those weird things that I'm not sure if it's a good or a bad thing. It's just an interesting effect that you get when playing around with video games. And Tetris was one of the biggest ways they could replicate that effect. So it's very interesting that they chose that as the name, Tetris Effect. They highlighted that effect in the marketing of the game when they were leading up to the launch.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's the brilliant call of what do we call this game, and it's that interesting bit of trivia someone just knows, and they're like, Tetris Effect. What else could it be? Because this game does stick with you for a Tetris game.
Yeah,
you know, like old schoolers like us, like Tetris, one of the first games we ever played. We rarely play it now unless with friends, but this one you have a reason to go back and re-experience something brand new all over again, and I love it so much.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, Also, one other interesting thing is that it seems like the game is built around the theme of relaxation. And my wife pointed that out where she said, are you working on your chakra right now? When she saw someone posing in like a yoga pose or something, but like your avatar can like do different poses and stuff, or like sit in meditative states, and it seems like that's the kind of theme that this game is going for, where it's just trying to get you to relax and enter a flow state, which is leading into an interesting thing where Tetris has been studied in various labs to also try and combat the effects of PTSD and trauma. This particular version seems to really try and dig into that because Tetris has been used in studies to try and curb anxiety and help people cope with difficult memories, and they attribute that to having the ability to access your mind's like flow state, and that flow state can help distract the mind from feeling anxious and stressed about something. But like it seems like this version of Tetris intentionally tries to evoke that, and that's another thing that I really love about this version of Tetris.
Yeah, and another similar aspect to that, like I imagine people listening to this are the vast majority are a certain level of gaming types. Like we play all sorts of games, and I'm sure a lot of us have experienced that in the zone moment where you are just on top of whatever you're playing.
Yeah.
And you zoom like whatever difficulties you're having. I feel like the music and the visuals combined were done so well that it triggers that state of mind much easier than most games. And I think that's exactly what they intended. There's also another thing to this game. There's a lot of culture in this game.
Yeah, it feels like they tried to incorporate every culture or some aspect of every culture into one of the visual tracks in this game. So then it does feel like it is an all-encompassing, around the world piece of art that is meant for everyone. And I really love that. What are some of your favorite tracks or stages in the journey mode?
I haven't finished Journey mode. I'm very close to finished Journey mode, but I think the one that stuck out with me the most was the Holland level with all the windmills.
Oh, yes.
And like your Tetris shapes are shaped of cogs.
Yeah.
I really like that. And it had this every time you lay down, each level, when you lay down something, they have a little bit of a different sound to them. This one has a woody, clacky sound to it, and it's so satisfying to hear each drop.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's like almost like a very light drum beat or it reminded me of a xylophone because of all the wood sounds that came from it. That one was very memorable. I also loved the jazz, like the city jazzscape kind of level where it's almost like a jam session of a jazz band that you're hearing while you're moving pieces around. I loved that one, but I think my favorite one is very late in the journey mode when the screen becomes kind of serene, and it's like a tropical island theme one. And for just a reference, like these stages, they start in some form, but with like a certain speed of the blocks falling, but those can change as you clear lines. And when you clear like 30 lines, that's when the stage ends. Well, when you get through like the first 10 lines, the speed of the game might change. And all of a sudden, the blocks start to fall faster and faster. The particular effect that happens with the late stage level that I'm talking about, the visual starts with a bunch of palm trees. They're swaying in the wind, and it's a very serene kind of sound. The blocks are falling at a pretty slow speed. But as you clear some of those blocks, the sun starts to set in the background, and the drum beats of a drum circle and some tiki torches start to appear in the background, and the speed of the blocks start to fall faster and faster. By the end of the stage, it sounds like a rocking party on the beach, and the blocks are falling really fast, and it's kind of an adrenaline rush. So it's almost the opposite of a meditative state that Tetris Effect is going for, but it is still something that is evoking a huge amount of emotion and excitement that I absolutely loved. So that would be my favorite one, just the tropical setting and the fact that the sun sets as you play.
Yeah, I haven't made it to that level yet.
Yeah.
The last one was, I think, some ice level. There are several ice themes in this game, and there's one where it speeds up really, really on, and it just keeps coming and coming, and I think I played just too much at that point where my brain was starting to get a little fried, and like, I need to take a break, and then we started to do the podcast. There was actually a level right before that, though. It seemed like it had a fire and ice theme, and the rules were reversed. The blocks started at a fast pace, and then they got slower.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool, too. And that one came in really late in the game as well. But the first time when the blocks start to hurry up, the speed is quite noticeably different and totally takes you off guard.
Yeah, it is. I remember the first time that happened, and I had I wasn't playing with headphones. I was playing with the speakers off our TV, and it started out kind of nice, and then I think that was like it was the Hindu chant that was
the fire one.
Yeah, that one I thought was really cool, and then it starts out kind of slow with a very heavy drum beat, and then by the end they are chanting really loud, and my wife was in the room behind me, and she just goes like she wanted me to turn the volume down, and all I could say was like she was about to say that, but she was just like and I just said, it's accelerating, oh no. But because I wasn't expecting it, I thought it was going to just stay the same for the whole stage, but like that caught me off guard, and it was like the last 4 or 5 lines where it got really fast, but it was still really cool.
Yeah, and I only played two modes of this: journey mode and the multiplayer with you.
Uh-huh.
What's the like middle mode? What? I would guess it's like just a free for all. Just play the same stage for as long as you want. Is that correct, or am I
So
just guessing wrong?
not quite. So there are a bunch of different modes in this, and there's one that you can just play and play like a set number of tracks that are selected from the journey mode that all have a specific theme, and you can either play them at like whatever difficulty you want, or you can play them without the threat of a game over. So just in practice mode, and that goes
Okay.
back to you relaxing and just not needing to think about anything really, and not feel like you're under pressure that to clear these lines and not lose. It's just there for you to meditate almost. And that's one thing that was really interesting. There's also other spin-off modes from that where you can clear like specific blocks. You can also like do other variations of Tetris, but there's nothing that big or different from journey mode. There is one thing that I did find very strange, and that's that a lot of Tetsuya Mizuguchi's games in the past that have featured music like this, in a puzzle game especially, like Lumines, they allow you to create your own playlists. And this one doesn't have that feature. And that's one thing that I was really missing, where like I couldn't just create a playlist of my favorite tracks in the game. And that's the one thing that I found missing that I was really wanting from Tetris Effect. So, I do appreciate that they have like 3 or 4 other meditative playlists that are themed in a specific way, but I also want to create my own, and this game doesn't have that available, so I'm not sure why, but I want that. The other modes though are really cool. There's one that like asks you to build up a combo, and you have to clear lines as fast as you can to keep that combo going. It's not about building up like 4 lines and clearing them all at once. It's about clearing like one line with every piece almost to keep that combo going.
Going back to the whole saving a Tetris piece,
Yeah,
I didn't see that in game. Instead, what I saw was max mode, and that's a very interesting mechanic.
yeah. So what is max mode exactly? Could you explain that?
Max mode, so you build up a meter,
Yeah.
and when that meter is full, you I think it's like R3 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was also something a bit different in VR mode, but the blocks stop falling at a normal pace, and they just stay on the top of the screen, and you move them around to the position you want. And I don't know how long this lasts, but I got in 10 pieces where I just move them wherever I want, and the lines quickly go away. And it's a really great thing if you are like near the top of the screen and you're like, oh no, these are going super fast, and I can't think fast enough to put these wherever. But if you have max mode and you're like, I just need to get rid of 3 lines or whatever, it is a great way to finish the level.
Yeah. Yeah. Was it called max mode or zone mode? I remember like
I call it max mode because when the meter's full, I see max.
oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, and like I saw the instructions for it called zone mode and got into it, and that's something that I often forget that I have in the game. And so I actually didn't even use it through journey mode at all until like I had finished the whole game. And then I realized, oh, there's zone mode. I had never used that. And then I tried using it a couple of times and thought like, well, that's cool. All right. I'm not sure if I really need it, but like it creates a great sense of relief for those really fast levels. And that's
Yes.
another thing I really loved.
Yeah. I didn't realize it was there till a while as well. And I was just kind of pressing other buttons at first to just try things. I was hoping to find a save this One Piece button, but I couldn't find one. So,
Yeah.
or at least in journey mode. Speaking of journey mode, so like you do 30 lines and you move on to the next level. When you move on to the next level, everything pauses. There's a transition. The transition's really cool. And then whatever your build already was is that for the next level, unless if you finish a section. Once when you finish a section, which is like 3 or 4 songs, you're done. You take a break, you breathe, you're back in the menu mode, and then you go on to the next level with a totally clean slate.
Yeah. That is another chance for you to just take a breather and, not have to worry about what your space looks like when you've finished a stage. That was something that was not in the Lumines series when I was playing that. So that was a nice addition to these kinds of games that I've seen. So I really appreciated that because, I remember when I was playing Lumines and I would get to like the last track in the journey mode and I would, fill up my space and lose, and I would have to start over completely. And, that's like a couple hours worth of playing that is just gone. And thankfully I was playing, like my favorite one was on Vita. So I could just, play for a few minutes and then, put it to sleep and, go back to work wherever I was. But this one, it has you play like 4 or 5 tracks and then you can just take a break for the rest of the night or, not do anything and then come back to it later. And I really appreciated that.
Yeah, and if you lose during a stage, you don't go back to the complete first section. You just whatever last song you were on. So you can literally be at the last song of the section, not have to worry about it. You just have to redo just that one stage. And with 30 lines, they're not really asking for much.
No. And that's quite nice. However, in the final stage of journey mode, you can just choose this one stage from the beginning, and it is asking you to clear 100 lines. And that
really?
That is quite a feat because it starts out fast and gets a little bit slow, but not often, and it doesn't get that slow. So it's definitely like a great final challenge for the game. And I really loved it.
Yeah, I can't wait to get to the last one. I think I have only like 6 or 7 songs left, and then I'll be done.
Close your eyes so you see my vision. Unite the souls so there's no division. Look into the future, we see all seasons. Aiming for the top, but what's the reason? minds were free. We become the legends we were meant to be. Now open your eyes and you will see. I can lead you home, just follow me.
Do you want to talk about multiplayer mode?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yeah, let's talk about multiplayer. You know, that was something that I after I finished the journey mode, I thought like, okay, well, I'll try out some of the multiplayer modes. You know, jumped in and looked at them. For anyone that doesn't know, there are a handful of different strange like multiplayer ways to play Tetris, and there's the conventional one where it's a head-to-head match against like you and one other person, and like when you clear one line, there's a line that appears at the bottom of their screen, and you know it pushes all their blocks up, and so what you're trying to do is clear enough lines to push their stack all the way to the top and jam them up. The crazy thing about this mode is that when I played it, I thought like, okay, well, you know, I'm pretty good at Tetris. I finished the game, jumped into multiplayer mode, and got clowned out. That was a kind of a revolutionary moment where it's like, yeah, I'm not that great at Tetris. I just learned. But I feel competent enough to, you know, get myself into a bad situation.
I did not do the multiplayer mode because just my general knowledge, I have seen people on a pro level and they just, you know how you can, in most Tetris games, just drop straight from wherever you're at. There's no in between. It's just an instant drop.
Yeah.
I've seen guys just, holy crap, one right after another. And I'm like, how do you even have the reflexes for that? How do you see that? But they just do. And once when you're on that level, I imagine you're going to be playing these games ranked and whatever, and you don't stand a chance.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it takes years to get to that level.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. But, people should look up fast Tetris speedruns in general and just be in shock and awe.
Yeah, yeah. To give you an idea of what the speed of these are, like it's like the pieces just appear at the bottom of the screen. They don't fall at all. They just spawn in there.
Exactly.
And then to keep it from sticking in place, you have to keep rotating it. And like the speed that these guys are rotating the blocks is ridiculous. And then like you also have to like plan where you're going to place things, because you know you can't really, I guess, lift a piece up above another piece. So, you know, you can kind of make it roll across the screen, but if your stack is too high for a piece to actually get over something, you're restricted in where you're going to place it.
Speaking of the rolling mechanic, once when it's not like old NES Tetris, once when you touch the other blocks, it's boom over. You get like a few seconds if you're really quick on like changing the positions of the block.
Yeah.
And then set them in place. And I think this game has been the most forgiving in Tetris I've seen of that. I think I counted up to 4 seconds one time before the blocks stopped.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think this is as forgiving as the Tetris on Nintendo DS. I remember.
I haven't played that one.
Okay, so on that one, I remember when I had it, I would, in a sense, break the game of Tetris and play it infinitely, because at some point the speed does not increase because these blocks are just appearing at the bottom of your screen, and you could just rotate it indefinitely. As long as you were pressing that button, the piece was not going to stick, and that way. It would allow you to, you know, just constantly be able to take a second and think about where you're going to place this piece, as long as you're rotating it at the bottom of the screen or, you know, at the top of your stack, wherever it is. It doesn't have any glue in it, so it's not going to stick to the pieces once it touches them. And you can just keep rotating it and figure out, okay, well, this is an L block. I'm going to keep spinning it. okay, I'm going to put it there, and you put it in place and then spin it a couple of times to get it oriented the way you want. But with this version, at least they do have a limit for how much you can rotate it once it hits the bottom.
Yeah. And that's basically the versus mode. But what we played was a very interesting 1 versus 3 co-op mode.
Yeah, so this is like a PvE style kind of boss. Or in a sense, like it's kind of like a raid almost, where it's like you and 2 other friends gang up against a computer that is like a boss to fight in Tetris, and you all try and send lines over to it to get it to fill up its space and reach the top, but it's also got attacks of its own to send at you, which were really cool. Like sometimes it would make it so you can't rotate a piece, other times it would make it so you can't use the hold space, so you can't hold onto a piece that you want. One of the most shocking ones, I think, was when it started to send over big blocks. And these were like I got one that was shaped like the line piece, but it was 2 squares wide. And I got that and I thought, well, shit, what am I going to do with this? God damn it. And so I panicked and did what I was not supposed to do. But like the idea was that like, okay, well, you've got this long block. What you should do with it is rotate it so it spreads across the entire screen and it fills up, all but 2 spaces that you can then fill with other blocks and clear those lines really fast. But I just was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. And I just set it down near the left side of my screen because I was like, oh, I'll fill that up later. Of course, now I have to wait for not 1, but 2 line blocks to then fill up the space that I left on the left side because I didn't put it up against the wall. And so like the attacks that this computer has against you are ingenious and devious at the same time. But, it is a lot of fun to team up with a couple of people and try to take one of these computer players down. So after playing that, I thought like, this is awesome. I really wish more people were playing this. This is great. And also, when you enter zone mode in this game, what happens is like the blocks don't just like stop falling. All 3 players' screens merge together and you can play as one team on one screen. And you take turns placing pieces. This was really cool. And it took some getting used to, but then I would start to like watch what you were doing. I would watch what our computer like third person was doing because you have to have 3 people on a team to fight the big computer. So like it became like this really cool cooperative thing where I'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to place this one here. I know Jordan's placing his right there. This is how we're going to move around and really fill up these lines really fast. So this was another part that I really loved.
Yeah, it almost feels like laying someone up with a shot in basketball.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it felt great because like I would watch you place a piece and then think like, well, he's placing his there, and that fills up the space for me to put in a line block here or a big square here, and like we're gonna have like a ton of lines built up for this thing, and then at the end of that zone mode, you either have built up enough for the boss to be killed because his screen is filled up so much, or he's really close to that.
It kind of takes 2 or 3 tries in zone mode before you can just eliminate your guy.
Yeah.
It's one thing you don't think about, but when the 3 lines or screens line up, that doesn't mean you have a lot more space to clear a line first. So it takes more pieces to get to that point.
Yeah.
But in the end, you'll still have you'll have like 8 or 9, 10 lines to give to your opponent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the way they drop is not simultaneously. They take turns. So I would have to wait for you to do it, and then I can drop my piece, and then it's the AI's turn, and it goes back to you. But you all see each other's outlines on. You can move around in the meantime.
Yeah.
and I can see where you're going to drop next. You can tell I know where. You can see where I'm going next. And the only wild card in that is the AI's a bit weird because we don't know what the hell the AI is thinking. And getting out of the zone actually helped me a lot. Because after the zone's over, there was a couple of points where I was about to lose. And then we got in the zone, and next thing you know, when it was all said and done, I'm back to like 3 or 4 lines.
Yeah, yeah. Did you also notice that when you enter the zone, all of the holes that you've made in your stack, all of the blocks that they don't just get filled, like all the squares that are there become loose and they all just drop where they are.
Yeah, it was something like, I was like, I could have sworn there was a hole there earlier, and I couldn't quite figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
In my head, I was like, I just thought they were filled, but it was all happening so fast. I noticed something was going on. I just couldn't tell what was going on.
Earlier, you mentioned that you played this also in VR. Can you talk a little bit about that as well?
So I had to borrow a friend's VR helmet. It wasn't a PS VR or a VR2. It was, I think it was an Oculus, and you can play this sitting down. So for those who are like, I don't want to bump into anything or whatever, you can play it sitting down. And then honestly, I think that might be my preferred method, because you don't need to move your arms or legs or anything. You just use the controllers in your hands as is. And it's Tetris, so you're like, what button does what? And like, it's very easy to figure out. The only major issue I have glasses, and I am nearsighted. I still needed my glasses to actually see, and they were a little bit of a hindrance. I heard about lenses, though, prescription lenses you can put inside VR helmets.
Oh, cool.
If you have that sort of trouble and you have the money, I would highly, highly do that for like just any VR game. Look into it, see if it's optimal for you. And if you really want to get VR games, please do it. Because just putting your glasses on, it it fits so weird. And I'll tell you right now, some glasses will not fit. My glasses barely fit over the VR helmet.
Okay.
But as for the thing itself, I waited till I got the opportunity to play VR first before downloading it on my PS4 and just playing on my big screen. And I'm glad I did, because VR is the way to go. It's a bit more immersive. The sound's way better. I have really good headphones, but something about like in that helmet and everything, the visuals really pop. You get a bigger sense of depth in the screen, and it's not sickening. The other problem VR people have is I'm going to get sick. There's no sense of vertigo or what is up, what is down. None of that in this game.
That's great to hear, particularly because like I imagine that like playing in VR, like this version of Tetris, it's still stationary. Like you're not moving around in VR, so there's not really that much of a chance to get this like VR sickness, so to speak. But like it is interesting. Can you describe like what it looks like in VR? Like from what I understand, you still have the Tetris board in front of you when you're playing, but how does that work?
It looks very similar than you do on the TV. Yeah, I would say the devil is in the details, though. That's where the main difference is. It's everything just pops more, and there's just a sense of dimension where everything's at. Like, there's one level with the jellyfish level, and fish kind of fly at you from around the screen. You ever seen like 3D tricks in an IMAX movie?
Yeah.
It's very similar to that.
Okay.
How 3D works in, like, they're not right in front of you or anything, but the sense of like something would like fly behind the Tetris screen and you would see it, and then it would float around to the front of it, but really quickly, so you're not being totally screwed. I'm like, where's my piece at? I can't see.
Yeah.
Or anything like that.
It sounds like there's a sense of depth to it, where like there's a lot happening behind the board, and so like
Correct.
when you get to that stage when you're on a hot air balloon, and there are tons of hot air balloons like all around the background.
Yeah, you can tell which ones are closer than others.
Okay.
And particle effects, like, I'm sure you saw lots of fireworks in this game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see in VR one bit of firework closer than the other. Like, one's in front of the field, one's behind it, one's beside it, and there's not exactly a placement order for it. It's all randomized. On the other hand, as cool as that all does sound, that's kind of it. There's nothing too other special about VR, and man, I do wish I could play online on it, because I would like to see how that would work. Like, is the connection speed slowed? Is it chuggy? It loaded just fine. It took a minute. The load times did take a minute, but not. You're just sitting there like, oh, when's this going to be over with? It just took, I'd say about like 20 seconds, most. 10 seconds usually. And then whatever, just loading, you're on to the next thing.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Was there any point where you felt like you were engulfed in the effects?
Oh, yeah. The first time playing, I was like, my friends were like, you're saying wow a lot. I'm like, yeah, because these visuals are so fucking cool. And they were seeing what I saw on the TV, and they're like, well, that looks cool. But I'm like, it's so hard to convey the difference on, like, just talking about it. It is something you really do need to sadly experience for yourself. Okay.
I remember when I think it was Jared Petty who was talking about Tetris Effect.
Doki Doki.
And yeah, he had said that, like, okay, well, I play Tetris Effect on screen. Yeah, I thought, okay, well, this is cool. And he said, when I put on the VR headset and tried Tetris Effect, I said to myself, this is how religions are born. It's that transcendent. Like
It
it sounds
totally
like,
can be.
yeah, it sounds like that's what you're describing, where it's just a completely different experience that is something that you cannot forget about.
Yeah, I wish I had more time with it. I only had about an hour. On the journey mode, I got as far as the windmill level, and then things were moving along, and we had to put the game up,
Yeah.
sadly. But I went ahead to my friend and said, I will buy this game if I can try it out. So I now have carte blanche to be like, hey, you want to hang out this weekend? Bring your VR helmet over. I want to play more of that. So.
Nice, nice. Okay, so on the show, I like to ask people, how would you rate Tetris Effect on like one out of these three different rankings? Would you say don't bother with it? It's not really worth your time. Would you say try it if you have PlayStation Plus or if you see it on sale? Or would you just say I really should have paid full price for this thing?
Oh, I mean, if you have PlayStation Plus, absolutely get it. Whether you have it on a base PS4, PS5, and if you have a VR helmet and everything, absolutely get it. Even if you have to buy it, if you have VR, this is a must buy. If you don't have VR, I would pick it up for on sale if you do not have the PlayStation Plus.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I would say about the same thing where I felt like it was great. It was a beautiful experience, but wait for it to be on sale or if you have PlayStation Plus, definitely download it and try it. But it is a pretty simple Tetris experience that I imagine I'm going to be coming back to every now and then just for a few 5 minutes of relaxation. So it is a fun experience to try out and something really interesting to see.
A lot of people who are into gaming be like, I've just been starting to date someone who's into wants to get in games or whatever. This is one of those first steps into gaming games.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially in the co-op mode, because a lot of times they want to play with you. The co-op version of this game is an absolute great way on you're on the same team. You don't have to worry about them sucking, because to find someone who sucks at Tetris, like actually sucks, would be kind of a hard thing to do. The person that's staying with me, she has dyslexia,
Okay.
and that can kind of mess with people. And we still whoop the co-ops, the AI's butt. She doesn't play video games too much, and she never played this game before, and we were still able to do it. So
nice.
I would definitely say that is a huge plus of this game. And it's also one of those great games to just blow your friends' minds away.
Yeah.
Like, guy, I know this is Tetris, but you gotta watch this.
Moving on, another part of the show I like to have is the actual books and more segment out of this book club style podcast. Are there other games in Tetsuya Mizuguchi's history that you have played?
I have not. Sorry, Greg Miller. I've never had a Vita, so no Illuminus, no Puyo Puyo. Okay. I don't know if he did Puyo Puyo, but whenever people bring up, or no, not Puyo Puyo. What's the one he's obsessed with? The the game that gets Patapon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Mizuguchi was involved in Patapon, but I'll have to look that one up. Yeah.
Yeah.
That one I haven't tried. So the ones that I have tried, because I was looking on Wikipedia for a few minutes. So Rez is probably one of his most famous. I remember trying that, and even though I was not great at it, I was still blown away by the style of that. That one is sort of like a light gun shooting game, but you're like an ethereal being inside of a computer, and you're trying to eliminate a computer virus. It was very 90s, I thought, in theme. Another one is Every Extend Extra. Very cool game where you're kind of like creating fireworks and chain reactions of on stuff on screen, and then like the beat of the music plays into the explosions that are happening. It's really cool. I think that one was on Xbox 360 way back in the day when like Xbox Live had just launched. He also did Child of Eden, which was kind of like Rez, but it was a big highlight for Xbox's Kinect, where you could shoot with your hand gestures, and it didn't really work all that well, but you could play it with a controller too, and that was, I think, the better way to play it. I had it on PS3 and tried it with the Move controllers. Also, they didn't really work that well, but playing it on a controller was really cool. That one was very much like Rez, so if you can find a copy of that, try it out. But I do think that my favorite series that he's worked on is Lumines, and I still love Lumines, the Electronic Symphony version on PS Vita. That one is still my favorite, just because it has some of the best music for my taste. And playing Tetris Effect really got me to pull out my Vita and start playing that game again, playing Lumines again, because I loved that music so much.
Yeah, I should try it out someday. I probably will, especially if it ever does get ported. It has been ported, right? Am I crazy on thinking on that?
Not the Electronic Symphony series, or not that version of the game, but Lumines Remastered has been put out on Switch, PS4, and PS5, so you can get it there. But
okay,
my favorite version of it is still only on PlayStation Vita, and so sadly those tracks are not available in Lumines Remastered, but it's still a really good game. A nice alternative to Tetris, where you're not trying to clear lines, but you're trying to form like large blocks of the same color. But also related to Tetris Effect, when you suggested Tetris Effect, like in early March, did you realize that the Tetris movie was just about to come out?
I think the next day on KFGD, Tim was like, "Have you seen this trailer?" and I see the trailer, and I told my friend, "We need to watch this movie," and we just did last night.
Yeah.
And oh man, what a movie! Even if you're not into Tetris, it's just a really cool retelling of not the making of, but the getting the rights of.
Yeah, my wife and I watched it last night too, and to describe it, it's kind of like the movie Argo, where you've got something that or someone that is wanted inside an oppressive area, and one person is going in to try and extract it. And it's a great thriller of a movie, and it's very exciting. It also has like these cool like 8-bit effects that have happened on screen every once in a while. Reminded me very much of Scott Pilgrim, but it's not as oppressive. So I thought that was really cool, and the the fact that this is like mostly a true story is just amazing, with how much like behind the scenes espionage was going on, and there was bribery everywhere, and it was just ridiculous of this one guy, Hank Rogers, trying to get the rights to Tetris for Nintendo. And it's amazing like that he did, and what he did to get there. At the same time, Roger Maxwell and Kevin Maxwell are, working at Microsoft trying to get the rights to them, but they didn't look at the contract properly that someone else had bought the rights from. It was just, it was so messy, and it was amazing to see the chain of events that happened to get Hank Rogers the rights to Tetris. It's great. I loved the movie.
Yeah, I would classify it as a suspense thriller comedy, because everything is very suspenseful in it, but it's also still just lighthearted enough.
Yeah,
where you're kind of laughing all the way through.
Yeah, it had me laughing at a lot of points, but at the same time, it was kind of like, oh God, get out of there.
Yeah,
oh man, it's mostly all true, because they've said that when Hank was going into restaurant, they said every time he went, they were worried, is he going to get arrested? I really hope he does come back.
Yeah, there is so many things that you're like, I can't believe that has to be exaggerated. But the whole what's his name, the small guy who was also trying to get the rights for the millionaires. He was literally there at the same time, and I think it was a day, maybe 3 days. He just missed the rights in real life.
Yeah,
and Hank, it was really down to the wire on both ends.
Yeah. I'm trying. It was Robert Stein, played by Toby Jones in the movie.
That's right.
But Robert Stein had bought the rights from the original creator, but at one point he didn't specify what the word computer meant in the contract, and that nebulous thing just sort of unraveled everything else that they had set up. And then Kevin Maxwell, who was the CEO of Microsoft, was doing some shady stuff with some Russian authority people, and then Robert Maxwell, his father, was stealing from the company, so they didn't have the money to pay for the rights when they were finally confronted about it. It was just all ridiculous, and this movie does it so well in telling that story.
Exactly, and we're not gonna. I'm sure you can guess the end of the movie, but
if you know a little bit of history about Tetris, yes. But
yeah,
the way they do it is fantastic. I loved this movie, so highly recommend checking it out. Is there anything else that you'd like to recommend in our actual books and more segment?
There is one reason I did not finish Journey Mode, and that is Resident Evil 4 Remake.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god. Resident Evil 4 is one of my favorite games of all time, and I was like, I'm gonna blow through this in a weekend. I'm still only halfway through it.
Oh wow.
I am playing on hardcore mode, and I would say if you love Resident Evil 4, you have to play this game. Holy crap. Half the fun of this really is they changed so much in this, but it's still so familiar to see. I remember that part, but then you get turned around and you're like, that's completely new. Is so good.
Nice. The only other recommendation that I have would be for our game next month, and we will be talking in May about Rayman Legends. It was published under Ubisoft's Ubi Art program in 2013. And if you want to be a part of the show, just like Jordan here, feel free to write into psplusgameclub@gmail.com, and we will read your email on the show. And I'm really looking forward to talking next month with you about Rayman Legends. that game is one that I haven't played in a couple of years, but I remember loving the music and the art style in that game so much. So yeah, really looking forward to that one next month.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk to you about it as well.
Yeah, I haven't started it yet, but that's one that I'm looking forward to. So, if you again want to be on the show, just like Jordan here, you can write in to psplusgameclub@gmail.com and let us know what you think about Rayman Legends. But until then, I hope you have a great day and remember to have fun playing around.
Yeah, all right. Bye, everyone.